Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. The AI space is just moving at breakneck speed right now. But while everyone seems completely fixated on the shiny new chips or the latest algorithms, we are going to look at the hardware behind the hardware. We're unpacking the absolute explosive success of Lam Research in 2026 and how they're, well, quite literally building the physical foundation of our AI-driven future. I want to start by hitting you right away with this staggering number, $6.72 billion. That is Lam Research's record-breaking revenue for the fourth quarter of fiscal 2026. Now, just to put that into perspective for a second, that's not an annual figure. That's just a single quarter. By raking in over $6.5 billion in just 3 months, Lam Research is proving they aren't just a participant in the AI boom. They are an absolute juggernaut. But, numbers this massive don't just happen out of nowhere. We really need to understand exactly how they got here.
Section 1. Record-breaking financial growth.
So Wall Street analysts had set a pretty high bar, expecting a non-GAAP earnings per share or EPS of $1.69 for the fourth quarter. But Lam completely blew past those estimates, delivering an actual EPS of $1.82. This incredibly impressive beat was fueled by a remarkable 30% year-over-year revenue growth. And what's even more telling is their 15% sequential growth. This means they aren't just growing compared to last year. They are significantly accelerating compared to just a few months ago. For the full fiscal year, their revenue climbed 26%. The absolute crucial takeaway here, they aren't just meeting the AI hype. They're actively exceeding it.
And the momentum? It is definitely not stopping. Management is giving incredibly strong guidance for the upcoming first quarter of fiscal 2027, expecting EPS to jump even further, into the range of $2 to $2.30. When you look back at the full fiscal year of 2026, they pulled off a massive 41% adjusted EPS jump. As focused learners, this tells us that Lam has locked into a highly profitable trajectory. But what exactly is the real-world catalyst behind all this?
Section 2. The AI chip catalyst.
The answer really lies in the sustained, just overwhelming demand for AI chips. Because of this insatiable demand, spending on wafer fabrication equipment, the massive machinery that Lam actually builds, is expected to push into the low $150 billion range for 2026. Just think about that scale for a second. There are entire nations that don't have a GDP of $150 billion. Yet that is the capital being poured into the equipment needed to fabricate the next generation of semiconductors. And Lam is perfectly positioned to capture a massive slice of that pie.
Section 3. Panel-level packaging explained.
Now, what's really interesting here is Lam's technological moat. Let's unpack this slightly complex term, panel-level packaging, or PLP. To understand why this is such a game changer, think about it using a baking analogy. Historically, making chips has been kind of like baking cookies on a small, round pizza pan. You can only fit so many on there at once, right? And there's a lot of wasted space around the edges. What Lam Research is doing with PLP is upgrading the entire industry from that small round pan to a massive, rectangular commercial baking sheet. By processing multiple chips simultaneously on these huge flat panels, they dramatically reduce costs and radically improve efficiency. As AI systems become more and more complex and require way more power, this kind of efficiency isn't just nice to have, it's an absolute necessity.
And this technological leap has a really massive financial impact. Because they're at the absolute forefront of this, Lam expects their advanced packaging revenues to grow more than 70% year over year in 2026. And they aren't just talking about doing this in some closed-off lab somewhere. They have already shipped massive 510 by 515 millimeter panel systems to development programs all over the world. They are actively putting the future of chip packaging into the hands of developers right now.
To make sure they keep this lead, back in May of 2026, Lam established a dedicated panel-level packaging center of excellence located over in Salzburg, Austria. This specific facility is designed to really accelerate both the research and the production readiness for this emerging tech. Essentially, they are planting a massive flag in Europe to corner the market on the next era of advanced packaging.
Section 4. Training tomorrow's workforce.
On August 12th, Lam announced a seriously brilliant initiative. They formed a 5-year collaboration with an organization called NY Creates to train roughly 3,500 students across the northern United States in semiconductor process integration. Now, normally, training this many people is a total logistical nightmare because, well, you need physical access to highly sensitive, multi-million-dollar clean rooms. But Lam totally solved this bottleneck. They're utilizing their Simulator 3D virtual fabrication software.
This allows students to get hands-on, rigorous training in a virtual environment, entirely eliminating the need for physical cleanroom access. It's a scalable, brilliant solution to a major talent shortage in the industry.
And alongside building up the workforce, they're really maintaining their corporate standing. In March of 2026, Ethisphere named Lam Research one of the world's most ethical companies. What's really remarkable here isn't just the award itself, but that it's their 4th consecutive year receiving it. Plus, they are entirely unique in their space. They're literally the only wafer fabrication equipment provider to make this list. In an industry defined by cutthroat competition, this fundamentally solidifies the rock-solid reputation with partners and clients.
Section 5. Wall Street's verdict.
So, major institutions are showing an overwhelming amount of bullish sentiment right now. Bernstein raised their price target from $360 up to $385, assigning an outperform rating. Arista Group Bank lifted their fiscal 2027 EPS forecast to an incredibly bullish $9.27. And Zacks actually upgraded their rank on Lam Research to a number 1, which is a strong buy. Across the board, the stock carries a consensus moderate buy rating with an average price target hovering around $358.47. The analysts are clearly seeing the exact same fundamentals we just walked through.
Tracking institutional money always provides an objective lens, and right now, there is some rebalancing happening. Wedge Capital Management actually took some chips off the table, reducing their stake by 15.9%. However, on the other side of the trade, major players like Rocco's Capital Management and Generali Investments are actively increasing their positions. So, while some folks are locking in their profits, other heavy hitters are betting that Lam's runway is still stretching out far into the future.
And all of this news translates directly to the tape. Around the time of their workforce announcements, the stock saw significant jumps, up 5.5% on August 12th and another 4.7% on August 13th, putting the recent trading price right around $326. When you pull back and look at the broader macro picture, Lam Research's stock has nearly doubled in 2026 alone. Doubled!
Which brings us to the ultimate question we have to ask ourselves as we wrap up this explainer. The AI boom shows absolutely zero signs of slowing down, and the hardware required to run it is only getting more and more intricate. The demand is there, the $150 billion equipment market is there, so as AI complexity grows, will Lam's panel-level packaging revolution keep them firmly on top of the food chain? I mean, they have the revenue, the innovation, and the workforce pipeline. It is going to be incredibly fascinating to watch how they execute on this massive head start. Thank you so much for joining me today, and keep learning.